You've been here in Japan for a very long time, but at the same time, we're seeing a very gloomy environment when it comes to globally for private equity investment. So what makes Japan different?
Yes, there's significant, investment, attractive investment opportunity here in Japan, and basically three areas. One is the, lots of succession issues. Based on our data, about 1.5 million number of family-owned company has no successor, so need a so-called any solution. So it's a great opportunity for investment in those succession opportunity. The second is corporate carve-out. That situation exists almost 20 years ago, but now Japanese CEO take action thanks to corporate governance code enhancement and strategic code. That's kind of accelerate more spin-off opportunity. Third is as you know 2 years ago Tokyo Stock Exchange made a reform and push Japanese CEO to increasing profitability. And the most significant one is PBR, one PBR. That's the policy. So that is also accelerate also delisted transaction. Japan is the only country increasing number of listed company in the last 10 years.
It's very interesting that you're actually targeting the changing demographics of Japan with succession issues, those types of companies. Tell us a little bit about how the mindset across Japan has changed, especially when looking at PE investments.
Yes, so I think we in the last 25 years we think significant opportunity exists, but nothing happened. Because of one is the PE recognition is kind of low compared with the other Western countries, but it's good general change, and thanks to lots of so-called historical track record and successful track record. Second is again corporate governance, and thanks to that corporate governance, Japan's CEO mindset is a totally change. So now, more focus on, demonstrate growth, increasing profitability, then, focus on a core business, spin-off and non-core. That is a new trend. It's a common sense for Western CEOs, but a new for Japanese CEOs.
There's a lot of new funds coming in as well, right? How do you assess the competition, the competitive landscape when it comes to PE in Japan?
Yeah, it has been increasing because of, everybody's eye on Japan. And so there's some newcomers, and also even if existing players would like to enhance, so-called, resources. But one of the challenges, there are, very few, PE talent here in Japan. They also, even if they have a liquidity or dry capital, dry powder. But without any good track record, trust, reputation here in Japan, it's difficult to identify or investment opportunity.
What are the preferred sectors that you're identifying the most opportunities, and also the preferred, I guess, structure and types of deals?
Yeah, we have a 3 industry team: consumer, retail, healthcare, and the TMT, and also general industry. Each industry has each investment strategy, but basically Japan is a manufacturing country, so there's a good company manufacture good products, but not enough resources to increasing particularly sales or revenue in globe. So that is the very attractive. Healthcare is a growing sector, and also TMT software, SaaS business. Is very attractive since one of the big problem for Japanese company is a low productivity in a white collar. So there's significant so-called growth opportunity here in Japan.
Kazuhiro, you've talked a little bit about the sort of supportive government measures and policies that we've seen. I do wonder what other reforms and initiatives do you think would further create more excitement and opportunities in this space?
Yes, so, Japan, government is very, supportive to, private equity, activity. So, in addition to, corporate governance and stewardship code, they also, implement some, kind of, tax benefit, transaction delisted or, Tokyo Stock Exchange reform as well. So, I think, generally, now, private equity is going to be, maybe, more important, vehicle or important function of, so-called, economic, recovery or economic growth.
Given, as you mentioned, the government efforts, not to mention the more understanding within Japan for PE, does that also mean that the landscape is becoming more competitive?
Yes, I think, that recognition is totally changed compared with the last 20 years. So I think actually when I started PE career here in Japan, I think it's the most challenging is do the business with the founding family because of they are very far from us. But since there's a good track record in succession deals, they are more aggressive than Japanese corporates. That's quite different. So always global investors say Japan is similar as a Western German. Okay. So very German is also in a similar situation. A little bit hesitation of acceptance of a PE concept, but Japan now is a totally different. So I think in the next 10 years, it's going to be a very golden era for private equity.
Yeah, and before we let you go, I wonder if that KFC Holdings Japan initiative to take it private falls into that strategy, and what can you tell us about those plans? Yeah,
since it's in a TOV, so we cannot tell any detail. But Kentucky has great reputation, great franchise here in Japan, and great track record. And actually, number of shops in China is larger than McDonald's. This is one of our so-called maybe a potential area to grow, and also maybe digitalization application order for application is another area to improve.